Alright guys, Game of the Year. It's the time of the year that we are creeping up on right now. And it's always a very contentious thing. There always seems to be a lot of controversy and suspicions about things being rigged or unfair voting due to certain biases that exist. And of course, this has been a thing for many, many years. It's not just the video game industry, but pretty much anything where you have a popularity contest of sorts. You're always going to wonder whose palms are being greased behind the scenes to lean the scales, tip the scales in one direction or the other. So we saw earlier this year when IGN decided to do their face-off voting for certain games for Game of the Year, and things were very heavily skewed against Black Myth Wukong, and people were like, okay, what the hell's up with this? And of course, they corrected it after a 3 a.m. ballot dump, and essentially said, well, you know, this is just the way things work out. And we saw that there was these random people that were downvoting it, and then people came back and upvoted it, so it's all fine, it's all for fun, no big deal. But of course, this was very suspicious given the fact that IGN has some very, let's say, less than cordial history with Game Science, the developers of Black Myth Wukong. And of course, it goes back to this article from Rebecca Valentine and Ki-Hoon Chan going after the developer back in November of last year, so a full year ago, labeling them sexist, toxic, misogynist, whatever. Again, this has been a long-running discussion that we've had about this game and IGN's interactions. So, that being said, it's not just Black Myth Wukong that has earned the ire of the games media. We have seen Stellar Blade, a game that has done a phenomenal job with fan service and interacting with their audience, and even when things were censored, unfortunately, and things were kind of again, restricted when it came to what they actually put on the PlayStation version of the game. We have announcements that now they're releasing this game on PC. They have released extra, outfits for Eve, for the character. They've now had this photo mode that's coming out that's going to be free on the patch on November 20th. And of course, when somebody asked, is the DLC free? And this is also including the Nier Automata outfit, the 2B costume. They said the Nier DLC is paid while the rest of the photo mode and costume updates are free. So again, this is Stellar Blade doing the right thing. And of course, what we're talking about here is their rendition of this 2B costume. You see in this picture here, Ubisoft tried to put this out in Rainbow Six Siege, I think like a year and a half ago, and it looks like dog water. It looks terrible. And then of course you see the one from Stellar Blade. So this is a company, a game that knows how to do things right when it comes to fan service. Obviously, if a game does fan service well, the game's media is not so happy about it. And then, of course, we've even seen them going after Stellar Blade over on Eurogamer, saying, Stellar Blade review, no thinking, just slashing. And, of course, written by a woman. I'm not even going to go into that. It kind of is what it is. Then we've seen Astrobot, a game that, honestly, pretty much everybody loves. Critics loved it. Fans loved it. I think I read one negative review about this game. And I can't even find it on the internet. That's that far down in the list. But unfortunately, what might hold this game back is the fact that I guess they just haven't sold that many copies of it yet. Who knows? But, as far as things go, I think another issue that this game has is the fact that it has no hidden agenda. It's just a fun, freaking awesome game for people who grew up with Sony, with the PlayStation. Now, of course, we've also had Lara Croft recently. Lara's had a rough go of it lately. We have seen so many times, both with Netflix, with the way that they're casting for her on their show that they're going to have, as well as their remakes and remasters. Lara has been beat to death with the ugly stick at this point. This is a character that the games media absolutely detests because it is peak girl boss femininity, where you can actually have a badass female who still looks like a woman, and they can't have that. Very much like the way that Disney had to get rid of Gina Carano, because you can't have strong, empowered women who also think for themselves and are actually attractive and feminine. That's a death blow to them with their agenda that they're trying to push. So it's no surprise to anybody that we have seen the media towing the company line for games like Dragon Age Velguard, trying to boost this game's rating artificially, trying to make it seem better than it really is. And when it came down to people giving honest reviews, free of the culture war, free of all the trans chest scar nonsense that they put into this game, they said, on paper, it's just not a great game. Despite this, you still see that it's sitting with an 82 on Metacritic. So again, generally favorable, despite the fact that the user score is all the way down to 3.8. So there's a massive disparity between the critics and the gamers once again. Well, I don't think we have to go too far to realize that the Game Awards are probably the worst of the worst when it comes to this access media influence affecting the outcome of the voting. And so Again, people have been making fun of Jeff Keighley over at the Game Awards for a long time. He seems to be a guy that thinks he's more important than it really is. People who play video games and actually care about video games don't really care about his opinion. And yet somehow we fall into this trap that we still want to see the games that we love nominated because we feel like you are doing a disservice to the studios who actually do a good job trying to make games that people want to play. So naturally, a lot of people have been pointing out the excessive spending when it comes to these certain types of award shows. One of these articles here that I found says the Game Awards 2023, how much does a Game of the Year award actually cost? And apparently, one of these awards costs $2,500 for the trophy itself. Pretty insane. And of course, we've also seen reports that allegedly during the Summer Game Fest, a trailer for a game, a 1-minute trailer, would cost upwards of $250,000. That's the kind of money that is flowing in and out of these games award shows, okay? And again, this does not mean that the Game Awards, TM, is spending or charging this kind of money for their trailer, announcements, but who knows? We don't know the exact numbers. You can assume it's somewhere in that ballpark figure. Absolutely insane numbers. So, of course, people are pointing out if Black Myth Wukong doesn't get a nomination for Game of the Year, but Dragon Age does, there's going to be a very real meltdown on this website. People also pointing out that the Game Awards here in the West will likely ignore Stellar Blade, despite the fact that the Game Awards in Korea, it swept all 7 categories. Now, I'm not shocked about this, but again, it is still a fantastic sign that it won all 7 categories at the Korea Game Awards. But again, Korea, a few places like Japan, China, they are putting out impressively fan service-oriented games, despite what the Western game studios are currently obsessed with doing. And then again, DOA Momiji says, I'll be shocked if Jeff and his pandering retards even acknowledge this game. I would highly doubt that they will. They're probably going to pretend the game doesn't even exist. Now brought to us by Pirate Nation on Twitter, he says, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the jury for the Game of the Year awards. And you can see right here, we have got IGN, Inverse, the Jeff Gerstmann Show, I don't even know who that is, Kind of Funny, which is not funny, LA Times, MinMax, PC Gamer, Polygon, The Verge, VentureBeat, Touch Arcade, What's Good Games, Game Rant, NPR, Pride.com, and Variety. Several of these outlets barely cover video games, and when they do, it is purely from their ideologically obsessed perspectives, where all they want to see in video games is trans and gay representation, and they are going to berate you if you don't have enough diverse hairstyles in your game, and that's about the extent of it. It's an absolute shit show. It's a complete joke. Grums points out that the Game Awards is rigged from the start. 90% of the vote is from a voting jury. Guess who's on that jury? Pride, a web mag that doesn't even focus on games and exists solely to push activism. I wonder why they're on the panel. IGN, fans of Everything's a 7, and Stellar Blade is killing women. And that, again, was a real article from IGN. NPR, famous of their, quote, neutral reporting and also little to nothing to do with video games. Kind of Funny, whose Andy Cortez targeted Smash JT recently, the same Andy who called gamers misled by grifters for criticizing DEI. PC Gamer, who just published the BS ADL report, which we talked about in the last video, about Steam normalizing hate and extremism in gaming. None of this represents gamers or what gamers value. Most of these outlets have slandered gamers, gaslit them, or pushed for DEI in gaming. The Game Awards has really curious picks for their jury and has nothing to do with great games, but it gets even better. And actually, Stutter and Craig pointed out, I present to you the jury for the real Game Awards, you. And of course, this is because Stutter and Craig has actually started his own Game Awards show that is crowdfunded, but again, I think that this is something that is a step in the right direction when we are getting sick and tired of these bloated corporate mouthpieces telling you what the best game of the year really is supposed to be. But it gets even better. So Moriarty says on Twitter here, Jeff Keighley is attempting to trademark, quote, Game Awards with the U.S. Patent Office, meaning no one else will be able to host an awards show with the words Game Awards in it. Worse, he's emailing fans and requesting they file with the USPTO on his behalf. And you can see the filing right here, which is absolutely insane. And you can argue maybe it's something specific with the name, but let's be fair. Naming your award show The Game Awards is already pretty vague as it is. I would expect you need to get a catchier title to differentiate yourself from other award shows. But the fact that he's trying to then take such a generic phrase and patent it so nobody else can use it is absolutely mind-blowing. Moriarty goes on to say, Jeff is claiming the mark has become distinctive of the goods/services that you associate Games Awards with, exclusively, quote, the Game Awards and nothing else. And then it gets even better. This keeps going, guys. I'm not even kidding. It's just this nonsense never ends. Moriarty says, in response to my video, the Game Awards has taken the unprecedented step this year of deleting their jury page and hiding who's involved. We have moved further away from transparency, and TGA should be ashamed. And honest to God, if these people had shame, it would be a shock. But again, this is why we need more independent media, people covering games, people talking about games, people giving their own rating to games, YouTubers covering games, critics and all that. Stuttering Craig with his Real Game Awards that he started. These are the things that we need in order to see change and actually beat back the corporate mouthpieces telling us what to think. But I'm going to leave it right there, guys. Let me know what you think about this, and I will catch you guys on the next one. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.